with the Commonwealth Summit 2025 already underway here in Namibia. The energy is tangible leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers have gathered to shape a more inclusive and sustainable future. Now, at the heart of many conversations is a vital theme, women's economic empowerment and the role of government in making it a reality. Now, we're honored to sit down, that is, with some stakeholders right here in today's engagement. Now, among the many voices shaping the dialogue, that is Oliver Scheidt, who is the CEO of Strategic Economy, as well as Marcel Lang, the director at Tweshipewa Our Investments. Now, both are not just here as guests, but as thought leaders, actively engaging in how Namibia and other broader Commonwealth can build a more sustainable, inclusive, and investment ecosystem. They now join us this morning to talk about how Namibia, they have to get their thoughts on how Namibia's investment climate is, how the foreign direct investment can empower local communities, and what governments and businesses need to do together to make this moment count. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for making time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Oliver, perhaps maybe let us start with you now. As a delegate at this year's Commonwealth Summit, what stands out to you the most about Namibia's positioning when it comes to attracting foreign direct investment?
I think Namibians' openness. We saw that yesterday. Yesterday, the Vice President very kindly hosted a welcome dinner for the international delegates, but also the creation of the Namibian Investment and Development Board in 2021 really shows, and the roadshow that they've done over the last few months and continue to do, they really position themselves as a vehicle to encourage investment from across the globe.
Now, perhaps, Marcel, you are grounded in Namibia's investment space. If you look at some of the discussions that are taking place here at the summit and generally that are happening, what would you say are some of those untapped opportunities that foreign investors often overlook when they're in Namibia or when they hear discussions about Namibia? I mean, what are some of those, perhaps, that delegates are watching right now can say, okay, hey, I didn't know about this. Perhaps maybe there's an area that I can tap into and benefit while I'm in Namibia.
Well, I do think there are two sectors that are very much overlooked. So firstly, it's the creative industries. There's no limit on creativity. And healthcare, local manufacturing. Now, why do I say this? They're both two industries where our proximity to the market is not a concern. Because we all know geographically we're constrained. We cannot compete with South Africa in terms of local manufacturing when we're talking about groceries or everyday goods. And secondly, with growing digitalization worldwide, and we all know Namibia has a lot to offer in terms of beauty, and it's really the Namibian people at the heart of it. So digital services and creative industries would be my go-to answer in that regard.
We've seen that the current government indicating that there is some resource allocation, especially towards the creative industry, and we might see more funding towards going the creative industry. Is that perhaps, will that lead to it being propelled, and once we see internal funding taking place from Namibia, possibly lead to other investors from outside saying that, okay, perhaps here there is an opportunity. Government is sort of unveiling some resources. Can we then perhaps also join on this back when going to say we can also possibly invest also in the creative arts?
Yes, definitely, absolutely. I always like to say Namibia does not have a PR problem. We have a marketing problem. There's no bad news about Namibia. It's just that people don't know about us yet.
Okay. Now, perhaps, Oliver, there's been an often debate about whether foreign direct investment really benefits the everyday citizen. You hear that, there's tens of billions that come. For instance, we saw the discussion over the oil and gas sector that majority of the funding went into the service sector, and most Namibians probably didn't see that coin trickling down into their pockets. From your perspective, how can Namibia ensure that direct investment actually translate into tangible opportunities and for local, especially with a focus that we also saw yesterday in one of the discussions here, is that on women and the young people?
I think we have to remember that talent is distributed equally, but opportunity often isn't. And I think the government's focus, and if you look at the inaugural address of the new president, she really emphasizes this point about the opportunities that there are, but also that we want inclusive growth. We don't just want growth for the country, but we want to make sure we bring people with us. And I think, people can really learn from be inspired by the national anthem that really focuses on unity, but also that we should work with courage, truth and honesty, that those are fundamentals when we're looking at a direct investment, that those should be core values of the people we want to partner with. And I think Namibia is best really placed where the government has an opportunity to engage with the right partners rather than just choose the first partner that comes along.
Okay. Marcel, what's your take on that? How can we perhaps maybe diversify to ensure that really FDI benefit each and every Namibian? Because I mean, it's one thing to, and most perhaps maybe to provide context to this question is that we must understand that there is a difference between economic growth and economic development. Economic growth, the economy can grow, but the economic development does not necessarily take place. How then to ensure that FDI makes it possible to trickle down to every single Namibian?
Well, firstly, thank you. I would like to say I appreciate the way you asked this question, because it's exactly right. It's about how we ensure. Because oftentimes when it comes to foreign investment, it's the foreign aspect that gets a lot of the focus, when really it's how we as Namibians interact with each other and get our own house in order before we even get into negotiations. So, for example, there's a lot of industries, like the creative industries, as I said, and digital services, where there are no Namibian companies that on their own will be able to compete with any foreign companies. But instead of competing with each other, Namibian companies should collaborate and come together.
Okay. Now, while you're there, Oliver, there is an issue of the world is watching Namibia when it comes to the green hydrogen ambition. We saw that the current head of state, she had indicated that she was uncertain as to what would happen. We saw them do a groundbreaking of one of the iron sites that taking place in Namibia. Do you believe that the country has what it takes to become a serious global and investment player, especially when it comes to these green hydrogen ambitions? And what role should government really play in this journey? I mean, are we on the correct trajectory in terms of the way we started?
Absolutely. I think the fact that we're having this conversation right now, we are here at the first Commonwealth Business Summit that is happening outside of London. But more importantly, in September, Namibia will play host to the African Hydrogen Summit, which will be a key conversation and time for people to really discuss this issue. In terms of what the government can do, I think, as Marcel said, it's about encouraging people to work together. I think Namibians are trailblazers when it comes to various things, including being the first country in the world to have enshrined the environmental protection standards into their constitution, and they can really be a trailblazer when it comes to the green hydrogen conversation.
Brilliant. Now, Marcel, partnerships which you sort of mentioned that must take place, for instance, between Namibian companies and collaboration, but partnership between foreign investors and Namibian investors is very, very crucial, because it doesn't necessarily make sense that you have the resource, but majority of it ends up going out and not it remaining in Namibia. But it appears to be that trust might be a barrier between Namibians and possible investors from outside. What then do we perhaps need to do from Namibia's side to ensure that local environment makes it possible for these partnerships to take place, to be transparent, but also perhaps to create a partnership that leaves majority of the value to also stay in Namibia. We've seen maybe perhaps some mining industries, for instance, there's partnerships, but when there's closure of that, there's retrenchment, obviously there's a impactful, in terms of society, because majority of the people who are retrenched are mostly Namibians, are based here, and their families depend on these livelihoods that we're getting from this. So what can we then do to ensure that we make these partnerships more transparent, more strategic, to ensure that majority of perhaps of the value addition also stays in Namibia?
Look, unfortunately, it's not possible in every industry to retain a lot of value in the local economy, because, like I said, there are logistical constraints when it comes to that. However, we've also seen many cases where foreign investment does not lead to quite the local employment that we'd hoped for, and not at the skill level that we want. We also have to remember that when this does take place, it's not, again, because of the foreign aspects. There are other Namibians involved in the process that are helping facilitate this. So we do still have to come together. But I would like to add to that the new administration has taken great strides in ensuring that local components in foreign direct investments are going to be more strictly looked at. And I think it's key that we focus on what we can do and not what we cannot do, because that will only lead to unnecessary frustration.
Now, Oliver, this summit is also about collaboration. And, earlier we had an engagement with a representative from the Ministry of International Relations and Trade as well as NIPDB. And we're talking about how can then perhaps the Commonwealth supports smaller economies like Namibia in negotiating better deals, protecting national interests, and attracting possibly ethical investment, especially now that we're talking about we want to go into digitization when it comes to trade. Because, right now we're told that there is 40 billion papers involved when we're doing our current trade, between our different nations. So what can we do to ensure that we negotiate better deals, attract better investment, protecting national interest, especially smaller economies like Namibia who are in the Commonwealth? They are 56 states, but they are bigger economies.
I think it's a great question. I think if we look at currently we have Samoa, a very small island nation that has the current chair in office. The summit is being hosted in Namibia. I think that shows a good intention of the Commonwealth to work with smaller countries and smaller economies. But even previously, Rwanda played host to it. And I think the key thing is, again, as you mentioned, collaboration. We should learn from each other. The Commonwealth is a great place to work together. And the Secretary General, one of the things she really emphasised yesterday in the speeches she did was the fact that we shouldn't just focus on the Commonwealth as a political organisation, but as an economic association where we can work together in sharing our ideas, work with partners and learn from each other.
Okay. Well, Marcel, we're out of time, but as the summit continues, what would be one key message that you would like to leave with Namibian leaders and international investors that are here in Namibia about those opportunities when it comes to foreign direct investment?
Well, as you touched on earlier, there is a problem in Namibia that a lot of foreign direct investment does not lead to the employment of Namibian people as we want to see it. However, I also like to see problems as opportunities, and maybe instead of focusing on mining and other sectors, when it comes to especially the creative industries and digitalization, the Namibian people can be the greatest resource that we have.
Indeed. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making time to speak to us this morning, and may the second day of this Commonwealth Business Summit taking place be of good success, and we hope that you can strike some deals or make some collaborations that eventually lead to some fruitful discussions in the future.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, that was Oliver as well as Marcel Lang, who one is a CEO of Strategic Economy, while the other one is a director of Tweshipewa Our Investments, talking to us about the ongoing Commonwealth Business Summit that is currently taking place.